What up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery. And today we are with Mr. Lars Hedenborg from Real Estate B School. This guy is a top producer. I mean, he's a huge real estate producer, and he will share his story on how he went from working 70, 80 hours a week and not seeing his family to now doing a business that's, I believe, in the 3 millions, working less than a couple hours a week. So what a transformation that is, huh? So it's an excellent episode. I can't say enough about it because I experienced a similar trajectory in my real estate career, and it started really just by surrounding myself with the right people. And, it really actually started backing up, was changing my mindset from having a job to building a business. And that's what we talk a lot about. So I hope you get a ton from this interview. It's fascinating. And hey, listen, don't forget our meetup is this Thursday, November 12th. So jump on a meetup. Just go to davidsmeetup.com. Get registered. Jim Black, good friend of mine, huge producer, does like 250 plus homes every year. Will be there talking to us. He's a humble dude. Also, Laura Morano, she's the host of the First Time Buyer podcast. I don't know, buyers seem pretty tough these days, so everything's tough these days, but especially buyers. So anyway, she'll be there. She'll be talking about what she's up to and give us some really good tips on working with buyers right now. So hey, we're just looking to have some fun, connect. If you see me, say hi, say hello, and I'd love to I'll call you out. You can talk about what you got going on, or if you just want to tell people who you are for referrals, that's fine too. So don't forget to register for davidsmeetup.com. And by the way, you can register anytime for davidsmeetup.com because it's every month on the second Thursday of the month. So get registered. You'll know the next date. I will see you on Thursday. My friends, enjoy the show. All right. Hey, Lars, man, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be a good conversation today.
Yes, sir. And a little bit about you, man. You are a podcast host. You also have the Business Freedom Podcast, right? Founder of Real Estate's B School, co-founder of High Performance Real Estate Advisors. Started in your career in 2007 when you left the corporate world. By the end of your first year in the business, you hustled to close 71 sales, working 78 hours a week. I certainly can relate to that. I closed 42 sales my first year. It's not quite 70, but I was probably working still 70, 80 hours a week. So I need to know what your secret was. And, you actually also look at right now doing over, 3 million a year in GCI while you're working 1 day a week.
Yeah.
I mean, geez, we need to know about that. So, hey, man, again, thanks for joining us and feel free to fill in some of those gaps.
Yeah. So the 70 plus deals is just effective marketing. If you read it, it says by the end of my first full year. So to be fair, in my first full year, I did 44 sides. In my first part year, I did 27 sides, and you add them together, and it's just a better number.
Oh, okay, good. Well, now I feel a little bit better. So
right on so we're right there. Okay. But yeah, so I got into real estate when I was like newly married, and end of 2007, we had our first child, and I learned real quick that I couldn't sustain a life worth living if I was going to continue to hustle, to work with buyers and sellers, me alone. And I just really focused on, what would it take for this business to run without me? And I asked myself that question like 2008, 2009. And then it took me a few years to figure all that out and build the systems and backfill myself in all the positions. And it's been nothing's perfect. We have our challenges like any other real estate agent or team. It's a pretty leveraged business though. And so we almost close to 4,000 families served in 12 years. And probably about 200 of those I did personally. And that was like 180, like too many. So so now I just been at Real Estate B School for 6 years. We only help team leaders, kind of build the business on systems and the right economic model. There's a lot of teams out there that aren't profitable, and without the team leaders' production, it's kind of this facade of a business. And so really helping out team leaders to build a sustainable, profitable business.
Well, what is Real Estate B School? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so B school, I mean, I went to B school back in the day. In 2004, I went to Duke to get my MBA. And there was just a lot of things I didn't know about business that I was able to learn through a program like that. So we basically teach business to folks that sort of happened upon building a team. You know, a lot of team leaders really don't know what they're getting into. They don't have the tools or systems in place. They don't know how to track, or they don't think about their economic model. They don't know how to attract talent and build out an actual business. And so it's the business side of building a real estate team.
I love that. Yeah, and I think that's one of the greatest challenges in our industry is, most real estate agents, they operate like they have a job, and it's really, really challenging and difficult for them to make that shift into starting a business. So for you, when did that come? I mean, you started in 2007, right? You got to 40 sides or 70 sides. When did it become clear that you wanted to grow a business? How long did it take you to get there?
I read E-Myth, Michael Gerber E-Myth in 2007. That was probably like the first, outside of business school back in 2003, 4, that was probably the first business book I read. And just the concept of like the 3 personalities, technician, manager, entrepreneur, that was the kind of the first thought I had around it. And then just personally, I was not showing up the way that I wanted as a husband and as a father. And I was, 7 days a week, I did my best to take Sundays off. But it was that I was amazed, because I didn't have a lot of experience in the industry. I was amazed at how much we got paid. Like, I helped a father-son buy a home and they flipped it. And it was like 600,000 on the buy side and 900 on the flip. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like the compensation that's available, in a $1.5 million of business, it was $45,000 that I made. And I took no risk. I didn't buy the home, and I did it with a $50 ad in a newspaper, about fixer uppers, and so I was like, man, that's really cool. I can get people to do all the work, and I could just figure out how to bring the business in. So I got really good at marketing. I got really into Dan Kennedy, direct response stuff back then. And I really just, I knew that the public didn't have a lot of respect for us. And so I just kind of dismissed any experience I had. Like I didn't brand myself. I just got really good at these little offers that I made on Craigslist and in a newspaper. And that just sort of evolved the strength that I had in marketing and systems. And I had an engineering undergrad, so I have like that side of my brain. I have that C. I'm like a DC personality where I'm definitely decisive. At the same time, I can jump in a spreadsheet and make sure the things that I'm doing make sense financially. So that was like the awareness in like 2000, probably 2010, maybe in 2009. We took a family vacation, and I was working a deal that fell apart. It would have been my biggest deal at the time. And I took a lot of time away from my family on that trip. And my wife took a picture of me on the computer that I still have. And that was like a low moment for me, where I couldn't even get away for 3 days. It was our first vacation, really. And it was only a short weekend. And I was like, this is crazy. It fell apart. I live in the neighborhood that deal was in. So now I go for a run, or I'm walking with my wife, and we always just look at it, and she always reminds me of the time I took away from our family in a loving. And so, yeah, I just think it's an unhealthy industry in a lot of ways. Traditional success it is honestly, it's mostly not worth having in our industry. If you look at people that are working 7 days a week, just consistently for years, and they literally can't unplug from email, text, and client and deal drama, let alone building the team part of it. And now you have other agents and other lives that you're accountable for. There's just a lot of, and all of that seeps over into your spiritual life, your physical life, your relationships, your emotional well-being. And it's just an industry that's ripe for, just teaching around, like, it's not, selling homes is not the holy grail of your existence.
Yeah, no doubt. So obviously family is very important to you. You've mentioned family probably 4 or 5 times. Tell us about your family.
Yeah. So two kids. Anders is 11, sixth grade. Kendall is fourth grade. She's 9. Kendall's our spirited one. She is definitely going to be a handful. She's already a handful. My wife, we've been married since 2006. We're both Jesus followers, so our faith is super important to us. Active in our church. I've been fortunate enough to have 3-day weekends with my kids. They go to this little Christian school where they have 3-day weekends. It's probably going to ruin them forever because they have Fridays off every week. Yeah, so it's nice to have built the businesses in a way where they don't really rely on me.
And you can spend that time, that quality time with your family. And a lot of and I have 3 daughters myself, amazing wife. We just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. I have a 2-year-old who's like a little maniac, gets into everything, climbs everything. You can't take your eyes off her. I got an amazing 6-year-old who's just one of those loving people who's like, just loves everybody and everything. Just that type of being, you know what I mean? And she's just awesome. And I have a 26-year-old who's just amazing as well. So I also appreciate everything you're saying because I was that guy. My first 5 years in the business, I probably worked 80 to 90 hours a week sometimes. And everything else, unfortunately, was secondary, Yeah. So a lot of the people listening to this episode, Lars, are probably in similar situations. I think awareness is key. And I know people that aren't even aware they're doing that. They'll be having dinner with their wife or husband, but they're on the phone the whole time. Or, they say, I'll spend a weekend with my kids, but yet the whole weekend spent being in front of a computer. This is a great conversation. So how do you help people with that? Like, where do you even start?
I think it's an awareness. For me, it came really early on as I just kind of looked at the inner workings of a real estate transaction, everything from generating the lead to like closing it and keeping in touch with them. Let's say there's at least 6 jobs in there, but there's actually more. Most of those jobs, you can pay someone a whole lot less than I wanted to make to do that job better than I could even do it. And so in Dan Kennedy, and he actually just passed away recently, a legend. He had a book called Time Management for Entrepreneurs. It was the 2nd edition. And there's an exercise in there that I went through. There's 2 parts of it. Take your AGI, your adjusted gross income from your tax return from last year, and divide it by the number of hours that you worked. If it's 50 hours a week, it's 2,500 hours. If it's 60, it's 3,000. If you made 300,000 and you worked 3,000 hours, you made $100 an hour. I did that exercise, except I did it in terms of what I wanted to make. I left with options. It was a multiple 6-figure corporate job to enter real estate. And I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I want to make 500,000 and I want to work 2,000 hours. I want to work a 40-hour work week times 50 weeks. And that math worked out to $250 an hour. That number was like, it was the only thing I thought about. That coupled with the mindset of eMyth and build the business as if you were going to franchise it 10,000 times. Well, I was just on fire to figure out systems that other people could run. And even simply put, like 85% of our industry doesn't have an assistant. And so these are people that want to make good money, and they're doing 80% of the job of a real estate agent. It is $20 to $25 an hour in my market or less. You can get someone else to do it. Showing homes, closing out transactions, all of the marketing, running signs, like all that stuff you can hire out for $25 or less an hour. And so even if you're doing a home a month, you get an administrator, you can go to 3 homes a month really easily. Yeah. And then you get some leverage with a showing agent, you can go from 3 to 6 homes a month. Then you hire a couple buyer's agents, you go from 6 to 12 homes a month. And so it's not a complicated ascension, and I think our industry just doesn't teach it. But for me, it was that number. It was 250. It took me about 5 years to get there. And then I changed it to 500. It took me another 5 years to get to 500. And now it's 1,000, and I'm not quite there yet. Next year, I think I've got a shot at it. But this year, I don't think I'll hit it. And so just being able to add so much value in a unit of time is something everybody has to focus on. Otherwise, don't complain about what you're making if you're not focusing on, adding more value in less time.
Masters, I'm going to get right back to the show. I've got 3 quick opportunities for you. Number 1, David's Meetup. Every second Thursday of the month, we're going to be doing a live meetup at 4 p.m. Eastern. All you need to do is go to davidsmeetup.com and get registered. Great opportunity for you to engage with our guests. We have best-selling authors, top real estate agents, top salespeople live. It's an open podcast, and you get to be part of it. So please go to davidsmeetup.com. Get registered for the next one. My friends, Vulcan 7, I've been using them for 10 years. They've been sponsors of the podcast for 3 years. In my opinion, it's the best system out there for prospecting, for lead generation, for data. Check them out. Go to vulcan7.com/path to mastery for your special opportunity as a listener. Again, vulcan7.com/path to mastery. And I'm super excited for number 3, David's Coaching, all about generating results. My friends, as a listener to Path to Mastery, I want to offer you a free 30-minute coaching call. That's right, a free, no obligation, no commitment, no expectations. We're not trying to sell you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. It's about bringing you value, bringing you a result. And at the end of the call, hey, if you decide you want to explore what it looks like, and if we both feel we're a good fit, then we can have that conversation on another call. This call is about digging deep and bringing you value. My friends, take advantage of it. Simply go to trycoaching.davidihill.com. That's it, trycoaching.davidihill.com. My friends, enjoy the rest of the show. You rock. Yeah, you remind me of something I learned years ago coaching with one of my first coaches. Unfortunately, John Alexandrov. I don't know if you know who he is. He also passed away a few years ago. God rest his soul. Really good guy. He was my first business coach, and he had me do that exact exercise that you talked about. And I was making like $170 an hour or something. It's not terrible money, but it's. But anyway, what I learned from the exercise was on a Saturday, I would spend 3 hours mowing my lawn. And you know what I mean? And it would be time away from my family and time away from my business. And then I had realized that for $45, I could hire somebody to mow my lawn, and it would give me that 3 hours at $170 an hour. So then it just shifted my thinking, and it shifted my thinking about everything. So now I get a listing. Am I going to spend an hour putting it into the MLS, doing the photos, which I was doing, and then realize, holy cow, if I'm making $170 an hour, and like you said, I can find someone for $15 an hour back then, I'm actually losing $150 an hour by doing this. So again, it's that shift in thinking, right? With the awareness.
Yeah, and it's such a good point. People, we have a house manager, 30 hours a week at $24 an hour. Like high level, she manages all the contract, like anything that happens in the house, she manages the person or she does it herself. And it's a massive leverage point. And what's 30 times 24 times 52? I don't even know what it is. 30 times 24 times 52. It's $37,000. It's for a whole year for someone to take everything, grocery shopping. She meal preps for us. She brings me my lunch when I'm home. Like I can easily, that's 1,500 hours.
The challenge is going to be most realtors, not most, but a lot of realtors, maybe most, I don't know. I obviously none of our listeners, but we'll think, oh my God, there's no way I can spend $37,000 a year. That's just way too much money.
Yeah, and it's just baby steps. So the recommendation I have is there is surprisingly great talent in every market available for way less money than you think. Yeah, we just hired, it was for a runner position on our team. We advertised it for $8 to $10 an hour. We found a 24-year-old, like super bright kid that came in, took the job at $8 an hour. We quickly moved him up to $12 an hour. But he works 40 hours a week for us, and he runs our compassion program. He runs all the signs, does anything outside of the office that we need to have happen. And, at $12 an hour, and he runs errands for our agents to give them leverage, like just massive leverage points. So my advice is just to look for somebody in your market. There are stay-at-home moms, for example, that used to have corporate jobs that now are with their kids. So they need to be free until 9 o'clock. They need to be free at 2 o'clock, and they have 5 hours a day where they can give to someone. And a lot of them even have a real estate license. You can get a licensed administrator for 25 hours a week in any market you're swapping out $100 an hour activities for 15. So the delta is 85. And it's only for a short term, so look at it 90 days at a time. I'm going to hire someone for $10 an hour for, 20 hours a week. It's $800 a month let's just look at it for 3 months. I need to save $2,400 to be able to do that. And then in that 90 days, you're going to generate way more business than the 2,400, 10 times more, I would argue.
Yeah, if they're taking the right actions once they hire the person, right? And then you're going to invest that additional time. You're going to get into lead generation activity, right?
Sure.
So I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk to you about, the journey, right? So, I always ask my guests to send me a question, and the question you said, let's talk about the balance between time, money, and stress, right? So, and that's something that you're focused on right now. So talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I've always looked at and mostly since I got into business for myself, I look at the trade-off between the amount of hours you have to spend doing a thing for the money you make and the stress you endure. And I just think, as an industry, we don't slow down to think about the trade-offs between those things. I know what I want to make financially. I know the time I want to put in, and I don't want a lot of stress in my life because the stress is going to hurt the other areas of my life. And so it's just every 90 days I kind of evaluate. In Real Estate B School, we ask our members to evaluate themselves on a scale of like how much time you're putting in, how much money you're making, and are you super stressed all the time? And there's nothing rocket science about it. It's really powerful though. Like you're making $500,000 a year, but you're working, 3,500 hours to do it, and you're stressed all the time. Like I would argue that going from 500 to 300 and get it from 3,500 to 2,500 and bring your stress from a level 10 down to a level 6 by bringing an administrator and a showing agent on, right? So there's just moves you could make I want my time independent of the money I make, and I don't want any stress. And so, yeah, I don't know if there's any sort of profound, breakthrough in that. I just constantly look at that as I really want to be free with my time, money, and have no stress. And it's usually a systems issue and leverage in people or marketing or some lever that you can pull to be able to achieve that or get that equation working in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a lot of recruiting for Keller Williams, and one of the top questions I'm going to ask is, is it time or money? And, some don't even know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. But in the end, it always comes down to those two. It's either we're not, or sometimes a combination of both, right? But it's going to come down to time and money. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. For me now, and where I am in my life, it's about time with family. When I was younger, I honestly didn't mind working 10, 15 hours a day before I was married. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I actually had fun sometimes doing it, right? I was proud of it, but now it just doesn't make sense with where I am in my life. What would you say, to the people listening to this, Lars, that are saying, you know what? Okay, I get what they're saying. I want to, yeah. I mean, you said to do the, do the exercise where you figure out kind of what would be, what you would make. Divide what I made last year by how many hours I work. That's your first step.
Yeah, that's sort of the baseline. The realization that, if you made $100,000 and you worked, 3,000 hours, you're making $33 an hour. You have to sort of draw a line in the sand that I want to move from $33 an hour to $100 an hour over the next 3 years. What has to happen for that to be true? And then you will get there because you'll figure out all the stuff you do that's in the way from making that move. And then you get to the next point and then you move from there. And you know, it's just not rocket science. Like you said, when you take a listing, are you literally putting that into the MLS? Are you really doing the job of a $12 an hour person when you told me you wanted to make $100 an hour? Let's look at that. You've got to get a part-time administrator, or we've got to get a VA, in your state that could do it for you, And so it's just about, and then also I would just say setting standards, even if you're a solo agent, setting standards around your time, having that conversation with a client and having them sign off and commit to working with you, even though you have business hours. These are my business hours. I work Monday through Friday from, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I work Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon. I have Sundays off, and generally nothing can happen over the weekend if we're under contract anyway. So you'll hear from me, on Monday morning when my business opens back up. And I think agents are afraid to have those conversations, and you just train your clients to, like, what other professional will text a client back at 9:30 on a Friday? It is unbelievable. It's ridiculous. And it all comes down to the fact because you just didn't have an eyeball to eyeball conversation saying, hey, listen, David, one thing that's really important to me, I've got 2 kids. I've got a wife that I want to keep happy. I'm the best agent there is. You just confirmed it because you signed up with me to work with you on the list side. And I just got to get you to confirm that, you're going to help me honor my business hours.
Yeah. And that's up front. That's like right up front.
That's up front. They signed the listing agreement. So you want to get the listing agreement signed first. And then just getting them to agree that, if the house is on fire, call the police, call 911, do not call me.
Yeah.
We actually had someone call us as their first call recently that their house was on fire.
Yeah. It's funny.
What are you calling us for? Hang up, call 911.
Yeah. It's amazing the calls we get as realtors.
Yeah. And that elevates your level of professionalism, and that will justify you getting paid. Our industry is going through, we can't get into it, but our industry is going through this crazy shift storm coming from like all sides. And if you don't draw that line in the sand that I am a professional, I'm an expert at what I do, and experts, you don't text like your $600 an hour attorney, on a Friday night at 9 o'clock and say, hey, listen, the market took a hit today. Your attorney, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're a pro, then there's some rules to be able to work with you.
So the industry's changing. We know that, right? What would you say is the biggest challenge right now to our listeners with regards to the tech and all the other disruptions coming?
Yeah, so it's consumer shift, it's tech shift, it's the iBuyer shift, and then it's most markets will see an economic shift here. So there's actually like this 4-part shift storm that's going on. On the tech side, the only way, if you study other industries that have been disrupted, probably financial advisory is the best industry to study. The financial advisors that are crushing it today have taken the high road. They've gone premium. They're working with high net worth individuals. They're not worried about the people that think they can shift all of their net worth to Vanguard. And they value expertise and advice in someone. So that's kind of the model we're following there. High service. Yeah. We want to get a testimonial from one of our clients that we can work back into our marketing, do a great job for our clients, get the testimonial, work it back into our marketing. And that will solve the consumer shift. The consumers, they don't think we earn our commission checks. And so if you're not taking the stance that I'm going to be the best provider of buyer and seller residential real estate service in the whole country, and let me build that out, you're going to be fighting with the technology disruption. You're going to be discounting to 1% because that's what a website will tell you they can do it for. You're going to be competing with Redfin and all of that stuff. So for me, it's focused on the consumer as an industry, and especially with team leaders, that they're building teams, they don't generally focus on the consumer. If you go in and you would work with, let's say they have 10 agents, you work with 3 of their agents, you'll get a completely different experience with all 3 agents. It's like a loose collection of people, and it's not actually a business. And it generally takes more people than like we'll do over 3 million GCI, 7-figure profit this year. And we only have like, I think 12 people on our team right now, 2 runners, 5 sales, and 5 admin. So it's not, we're in hiring mode. So we need more people. but it's not a real complicated business, but it's really consumer focused. We have 1,000 5-star reviews online, you know, and just focusing on getting those clients to love on us and just bragging on their success in our marketing.
Yeah. Well, I think you nailed it in the whole thing. And then in the end, it's right now the best defense we have against this is offense. And the offense is being in close contact and in dialogue with those people that know us, like us, trust us. Like you said, 1,000 reviews, let everybody know about your reviews. That's how you do it. That's how you combat this right now. And who knows what the future holds. I don't have a crystal ball. What would you say, in kind of wrapping up, tell us anything I should have asked you, by the way, that I didn't ask? Any?
No, I think as an industry, and it might be like this in other industries, I think as an industry, we're so focused on top line and nobody's talking about, are you making any money? Are you increasing your net worth? You kick your dog when you go home? Are you physically, your physical body sucks, spiritually you're a wreck, So I think there's just more to this like holistic approach to our life that I would just say slow down and just make sure that you're winning in all areas of your life, not just in real estate. I think that's just my parting thought.
Well, I appreciate this interview. I think this is a really important interview for a lot of people to listen to. I'm surprised I haven't had this conversation yet with 138 interviews. So that's great. I look forward to getting it out there. For somebody listening, Lars, the last 30 minutes or so, if there's one thing they're going to take from this interview, what's the one thing you want them to really walk away with?
Yeah, I think one thing, when I look back on my 12 years of building a business, I've always been really clear on where I want to be in 3 years. And I find that agents for sure, but even team leaders, they don't have a lot of clarity on where they want to be in 3 short years from now.
Yeah, no doubt.
All of a sudden they're like, their real estate business falls apart, and it's because they have no clarity on what they want to be. And I would just say my parting thought is to like be really clear on exactly what you want the 6 important life arenas to look like 3 years from now. And every year go through a process of reconnecting with what you want your business, your spiritual, your physical, as a husband, as a father, your financial, and then just get to work on getting there. And just having clarity, because it allows you to block out all the distraction that is going to come your way, switching CRMs, the craziness that we do as leaders. So just be clear on where you want to go, and then, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, man. Clarity is power. Super, just great stuff, man. Thank you for sharing. If listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, I would say probably the easiest way. Go to realestatebschool.com.
Hey, Masters, 45 seconds. That's all I ask. I appreciate you listening to the show. I don't know if I say that enough, but I know you can invest your time wherever you choose. So thank you for spending it here with us. Remember, if you want any information on me or my events coming up, just go to my website, which is davidihill.com. Again, davidihill.com. Click on the events tab. You've got webinars, you've got past webinar replays, everything is there. You can also get access to our sponsors there if you click on the affiliates link. So again, everything is at davidihill.com. And we'd love to have you join us on our Facebook community, but just go to Facebook and search groups, which is Path to Mastery. And finally, as you know, you can get yourself a free book by going to davidsfreebook.com. My friends, again, I just want to say I appreciate you spending time with us. Oh my gosh, I forgot to review. If you would, it helps so much if you'd be willing to go give me a review, and then email a review to me at david@davidihill.com. Email it to me. I'll read it on air for you. And I just want to say I appreciate you again for listening to the show. You rock. Enjoy the rest of your day.